Don helped me by asking the right questions, by caring, made me feel comfortable that he didn't have any other agenda other than to see what it was that I was trying to accomplish, where I was, and how he can help me get there.
I'll keep pulling you forward towards everything it is that you say you want. That's my commitment to you.
I want you to consider the cost of your blind spots. Now that's a little tricky because you don't know what your blind spots are. I mean, by definition, you don't. They're blind. But there is a cost. These are the things that minimize your success. They eat into your financial success, your quality of life, your relationships. I mean, that's also by definition. You can't see them, and they're taking away. At a bare minimum, they're making it a lot harder than it has to be. Blind spots. So we're going to take a look at what that means and at least get you pointed in the right direction. But let me start off with a story about Nick. So Nick is a very successful guy. He sold a business for a whole bunch of millions. If I look back at when we first met, he had a couple big homes, wife and 3 kids, belonged to the right country clubs, traveled, drove expensive cars, had it all. Everything that he was out to create. Well, not everything. Probably about like you. You know, you're creating, you have things that you meant to do and are doing. Maybe you're there, maybe you're still working on it, but you're creating. The problem is we create things we don't want. Not on purpose, not by design, by default. Those are the blind spots. As I sat with Nick, I could see right off the bat this tension. You could just sort of feel it. Just some struggle. And as I was really slowed down and really present, I could see something more than that. Sadness. It's a lack. Something's missing. It's not good enough. There's a whole bunch of stuff behind that. As I got to know Nick later and as we did this work together, all these things started coming out. These habits of thought, these judging himself over the past, things he could have done differently, comparing to others. There's a lot of lack, a lot of not good enough in all of that. Certainly a lot of struggle, depression at times, or something close to depression. All those were just living with Nick, the guy that has everything, but not everything. We can ask, where do those blind spots come from? How do we find them? Where are they? What are they? A good place to start is just going back in time. We started looking at how he grew up, his parents. Well, they had a lot of struggle, real struggle. And that became the context for life. There was never any conversation about just enjoying life, about enjoying the things that you have, joy, fulfillment. Those concepts didn't exist. They took nice trips, all those things, lived well. But we're talking about something bigger and deeper. Their context was survival. It was being safe. It was providing. It was always needing to provide more, always needing to be more safe. So Nick took all that on. And as we fast forward, we got a guy who the conversations he's having with himself are never quite good enough, need to be doing more, need to be becoming more safe, accumulating more wealth. How's that going to work when he sells the business? Such a great example of these old stories that you could argue that it was when he was building his business, some of those perhaps served, but they don't now. How's it going to work in retirement when I should be just enjoying the fruits of all my hard work and just figuring out what I really want to do next and just feeling joy and peace and fulfillment. But instead, I've got struggle and not enough and need to be doing the next thing and comparing to others and judging the past. I got all that. That's the tension and the sadness. Talk about taking away, talking about minimizing life experience big time. And so what do? Well, we spent about a year unpacking those things, just really discovering what they were, getting the voices out into the light of day, as I like to think about it. And we can separate the truths from the lies. We can start cleaning all that up, letting go of those old habits of thought, those old beliefs. Beliefs, nothing but a thought you keep thinking. It's the ones you don't know about that really get you. So we spent about a year cleaning up, making progress, and it's not like you finish this all up in a year, but it's a lifetime pursuit. But we made a little progress, and about 6 months after we had finished, I was having breakfast with an attorney friend, about ready to ask for the check, and he just happened to mention Nick. His name came up and he says, seems like Nick's finally found some peace in his life. I'm thinking, wow. So it was great for me to hear. Think about a guy who has everything on the surface, but there's the 25% that's not working, and it's a big 25%. It was observable, well known to this friend and to pretty much everybody else that knew Nick very well back in those days. This struggle, this sadness, he wasn't wearing it on his sleeve, but he sure as heck wasn't hiding it either. He couldn't. And to see now, looks like Nick has finally found some peace in his life. That's a good story. Everything has changed for him. Think about it. So, what are your blind spots? How do you find them? What are they costing you? I can tell you 3 places to look. The first is work. These are just from working with a lot of successful business owners and others. So I could call it work ethic. Work story is a better way to think about it. I always laugh at these guys that can create a $100 million business, but they can't figure out how to not work 70 hours a week. Well, most of the people that I work with, the people that I meet, they're operating on old stories, and they're way sub-optimized in their work. They're giving up a lot. They're not doing the right things. They're putting their time in the wrong places. They're putting their energy in the wrong places. You get stressed, you get tired, you're successful, but it shouldn't have to be this hard. So your work story, that's a good place to look. The next is your money story. Same thing. Most people are operating on old stories. They're operating today on the same story that they had when they didn't have any money. I'm not saying you need to go out and throw your money around, but it's time to really re-examine what it means and what you want to be doing with it. What's going to bring you joy? I mean, I could tell you stories about big money, getting, angry and upset over a taxi fare. So look at the money story. That one's pretty close to home too. Look at that. And then the last, but certainly not the least, is relationships. Relationships with spouses, with kids, with partners and employees. Look at those relationships that aren't what you want them to be. This one's almost universal. Things are missing. Things aren't working. If you could change, you'd be perfect. You're thinking about the other person. Well, quit looking at the other person, start looking at you. Your point of entry is you. The thing you control is you. Look at your stories as they play into your relationships. It's a chance to reset. It's a chance to create or move towards the relationship that you really want. That connection with your 25-year-old son or daughter or whatever it is. This is real opportunity. You got to slow down. You got to get in a quiet place. This is not something you do in 37 minutes on a Saturday. It's ongoing. But start somewhere. Get out your notepad and your pen and start thinking and scribbling and slow down and listening and just listening to what's inside of you and just let the questions come out. Find where those blind spots might be and consider what they mean to you and how you would feel if you could clean them up. And that's worth the price of admission.